So we got a little bit of different format today. I want to start talking a little bit more about sports, but I just have some articles and different things. So welcome to the first of what I think is going to be a weekly or bi-weekly series. Not sure. Let me know what you think in the comments at the end of this video, what we can do with this. But welcome to a sports yap. I just want to go around different headlines and things that I've seen in the last week or so that I found interesting. And I'm going to start off with a light one on the NFL. If you don't know Saquon Barkley, as a Giants fan, you can see my Giants plaque back there. It hurts my soul, but I'm still proud and happy for him because I thought he was a great player. Super Bowl champ now with the rival Philadelphia Eagles. It is what it is. But he was named to the cover of Madden, and they recreated his iconic hurdle, his reverse hurdle he had during the season. And he recreated it in a studio. And I'm just going to show you this clip.
3, 2, 1, go! Oh. Woo!
I know most people watching this are going to say the same thing that I did, but he is an unbelievably gifted athlete. That hurdle he made look like it was the most nonchalant hurdle that you've seen in a while. He was suspended in air for about 3 or 4 seconds, and he's in a studio. I don't know how much he warmed up, but I don't think he really is sweating there. And to have a guy just nonchalantly take a couple of steps towards him and him to just jump him like he wasn't even there and recreate a thing that he did in game is just unbelievable. As a Giants fan, like I said, it pains my soul, but I got to give credit where it's due. Saquon, you had an amazing year. You are an absolute unbelievable talent, and you deserve all the success that you're getting. So future me here, and I had to make this very hastily because I woke up in the morning after editing that video, and I'm not going to change the video format, but it has recently come out that Saquon video I was talking about, he was on cables, and I didn't know it at the time, but Bleacher Report released the POV of behind the scenes, which showed him clearly on cables. I still think he's a tremendous athlete, but yeah, that video was doctored. I still stand behind what I said about Saquon, but I understand why you would use cables in a controlled environment because the last thing he wants to do is have an injury. This is why the internet, you got to try to verify sources as much as possible, but I just wanted to add that in. I hope the Madden curse is still not a thing. It's been broken a few times. If you don't know, the Madden curse was a thing back in the 2000s when they started using cover athletes. John Madden used to appear on the cover of games all the way up to 2000, I believe, and it started with there were players like Eddie George and Marshall Faulk back in the day, but then there were some season-ending bad injuries that had to players like Dante Culpepper, Michael Vick, and so on, and there was a curse, but since then, Polamalu, Tom Brady, and others have appeared on the cover, and the curse is, for all intents and purposes, broken. I don't wish bad things. This is just me reporting the news. In other news, the player that somehow hasn't played it down in the NFL, but still has more media scrutiny than most NFL veterans, Shedeur Sanders, his father, a Hall of Famer, great, iconic, now head Colorado football coach, Deion Sanders, has a beef with the NFL and the rumor mill that started because of the allegations that his pre-draft process, as in Shedeur, didn't go well. And Deion came out and said basically that he was hurt by this entire process because there were things saying he was very disengaged during interviews, and there was one that I found the most egregious. I personally don't believe this is true, that Shedeur showed up to an interview wearing headphones which he didn't take off. And Deion said, and I quote, "You're going to tell me he had on headphones? Anybody who knows my son understands he's a professional. He's going to go into a meeting with headphones on, y'all? Come on now." Now, if you don't know, Shedeur was drafted in the 5th round by the Cleveland Browns. He fell from what was widely thought of to be a first-round NFL prospect all the way down to the 5th round. And according to a lot of Cleveland Browns beat writers and articles, he's actually done a very good job so far in the pre-camp process, the OTAs, off-season activities. And he's embroiled in a 5-way or 4-way battle with Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, 3rd round pick, he was picked before him, Dillon Gabriel, and himself. In all intents and purposes, he has a track to actually be a starting quarterback. So hopefully Shedeur does a good job and can prove his doubters wrong. If not, then so be it. But he at least has a chance to earn a spot, which is all that he can ask for. In my opinion, he shouldn't have been a 5th round draft pick, but the process is over. It is what it is, and it's time to get to work. I just found this to be an interesting thing. I know Deion is very polarizing, as is his son, but hopefully he can get to playing football and doing what he says, and I believe personally he was destined to do. I have one Major League Baseball article that I found quite sobering and a little bit scary. So there's a pitcher for the Houston Astros, goes by the name of Lance McCullers, and he had a very bad outing, which he only lasted a 1/3 of an inning, gave up a ton of runs, and was pulled out of the game earlier. From that game, he was sent a bunch of direct messages that were, well, they were threatening him and his family to them. I know you're not allowed to say those things for the YouTube algorithm, but yeah, I'm sure you can get what I mean by that. From that threat, he and his family were actually assigned a private security detail to make sure that they wouldn't follow through on it. But as of today, there has come an article where the person who did it apologized and stepped forward. Apparently, it was an overseas bettor that made a huge bet on the Astros and lost, and supposedly was intoxicated when he made those threats. I understand that people may lose money on parlays, but to threaten a man and his family is a bit egregious, and I personally think should be prosecuted so that people don't make threats like this. We don't know if the threat is credible or not. I'm not saying that players aren't subject to scrutiny, but making a threat against him and his family is completely out of line. Now, according to the Associated Press, McCullers told them that his 5-year-old daughter overheard his wife, Kara, talking about the threats on the phone, and I quote, "She asked me when I came home, 'Daddy, what are threats? Who wants to hurt us and who wants to hurt me?' he said." The Astros did hire 24-hour security. Again, this is just way too much. I understand sports fans are passionate, but I really feel for Lance McCullers in this situation. This is just completely out of line. If you are a bettor, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money and how to gamble, etc. I personally don't gamble, but if you're going to do that, don't send players DMs. I hope I don't have to say those sorts of things, but it's just, I hope people were raised better than that. But there have been multiple sources that have come out and said there's been an alarming amount of threats since the amount of online betting has increased tenfold in the last couple of years. Moving on to the NBA, I'm sure most people who are NBA fans know by now, but the Oklahoma City Thunder are now facing off against the Indiana Pacers in the NBA Finals. The New York Knicks unfortunately met their dream season demise by the Pacers. I'm sorry for laughing. I just have to say this on a personal note. All you Knicks fans that were bothering me, karma, man. As a Celtics fan, I do understand you got us, but your best season in 25 years. And on to the actual finals. As of now, the Oklahoma City Thunder are overwhelming favorites by most betting lines as well as talking head sports figures to win in the NBA Finals. And they do have a great team led by SGA, the MVP, the reigning MVP now, and he is a great player. They also have a lot of good role players and an ability to really make things happen, especially with a swarming, tenacious defense and players who can put the ball in the basket. On the Pacers end, they do have Pascal Siakam, who was the Eastern Conference Finals MVP, but they're also led by who I think is a criminally underrated player in Tyrese Halliburton. Great player. I do think the Pacers do have a fighting chance, but if you ask me my personal opinion, yes, I do give the edge to the Oklahoma City Thunder in the NBA Finals, but that doesn't mean that the Pacers are incapable of winning. It just means on paper, the Thunder seem like they've been on a collision course to win the NBA Finals, and all of the chips have fallen exactly where they believe they have the best chance to win. But drop your NBA Finals predictions in the comment section. Myself, I'm going to go with a 4-2 victory with the Oklahoma City Thunder. If you are a Pacers fan, hey, listen, I just have to pick somebody, right? And I do think the Thunder are better on paper. Doesn't necessarily mean anything. Has been asked, a lot of people wonder about my Celtics fanhood, which started back in the 90s, believe it or not. I was raised by an entire family of Knicks fans, but I had a grandfather who was a Celtics fan. So when Patrick Ewing decided he wanted to miss a finger roll when I was a young kid, I swore off being a Knicks fan forever. That is the actual reason why. As far as the current Celtics situation, I do think they are in a bit of trouble. If you don't know, the insult to injury in a literal sense was that when they were defeated by the New York Knicks 4-2 in the playoffs this year, Jason Tatum, their best player, their 3-time All-NBA player, was unfortunately maligned by a Achilles injury, and that one really did hurt to watch, but that means more than likely he's going to miss the entire season of next year. They are up against it in salary cap situations, meaning they cannot add any new players because he eats up a lot of that salary cap, but they do have another max contract player with who I think is an all-NBA caliber player, maybe not first team, in Jaylen Brown. They lost one of their best role players in Al Horford, but they still have Derek White, Kristaps Porzingis, who is a bit of an injury case, which is kind of scary, as well as Drew Holiday. From what most people are saying, they're going to try to get under the cap, which means they are going to get rid of a player or two, or possibly make some moves in order to do so, because there are a lot of penalties once you reach that second apron. What that means in this case is this nucleus that they had that thought was going to contend for years to come may already be getting broken up, which as a Celtics fan is, yes, a little bit concerning and a little bit scary. I don't know what's going to happen next year, so I'm just as much on pins and needles as the rest of you. People were asking about my opinion. Yeah, for the short term, I think they're a bit cooked because they're going to get rid of a bunch of their key players in order to get under that cap, and their main player, who is the one who's eating up the most of it, is going to be out next season. So I don't know what to think. I will have more to report and opine on when that situation comes, and whatever happens. Let me know what your NBA team is, what you think about your current situation. If you are an Oklahoma City fan, I'm sure you're on cloud nine, as well as an Indiana Pacer fan. And with all due respect to the Knicks, in all seriousness, as a person who grew up in a house with a family full of Knicks fans, I actually was rooting for the Knicks to win. Believe it or not, I did want to see it happen. Again, my parents were about 3 years old last time the Knicks won in 1973. And as a person who, except for basketball, roots predominantly for New York sports, I would have thought it was nice to have a title come home to New York. But for the articles I've read, it seems like they're going to make moves again to try to make this team a little bit more competitive. I don't necessarily know what that means. I do think they have a good team, but as far as on the grand scale of NBA, I don't think they have the depth and talent top to bottom to compete and win and get over the hump of that championship. But I do think they will be in the hunt for at least an Eastern Conference victory in the next couple of years. And if that happens, I will shake your hand. But as a Celtics fan, leave me alone. But that's going to be the end of this, man. I hope you guys enjoyed. We'll have a little bit more of this sports chat when articles come through that I want to see. If you have things you want me to talk about, articles, etc., drop them in the comments. Not necessarily links, but just place there things you want me to talk about, and I'll do the research. But I appreciate y'all for watching, man.